Welcome to Bite Size Learning. We are so excited to share our 10th video in a series inspired by Peter Liljedahl's Thinking Classrooms. Remember, you can access all of our videos on the Bite Size Learning webpage. Peter Liljedahl's book, Building Thinking Classrooms in Mathematics, has shifted the thinking of many educators in mathematics and beyond around how institutional norms in education have encouraged the creation of student behaviors that often interfere with student thinking and learning. Over 15 years of research, Liljedahl identified 14 factors where he, in essence, turned institutional norms on their head to see how student thinking could be impacted. He ultimately refined his research into what he calls optimal practices that promote thinking, and those are what this video series explores.
Today, we're going to explore what the consolidation of learning looks like in a thinking classroom. Liljedahl tells us that students mistake being shown how to do something for learning and having it in their notes for knowledge. Why might this be? It's likely rooted in typical consolidation methods. In most classrooms, consolidation levels to the top. This generally looks like the teacher reviewing the most advanced response or solution on the board while the students watch. A small number of them may share their thinking if invited. Students who hadn't yet arrived at a solution or response tend to disengage because the consolidation begins at a point that is too far beyond their current level of understanding. This approach is not only disengaging for these students, but because it requires them to make too large of a cognitive jump to develop understanding, the consolidation is meaningless for them. The teacher assumes that because the response was reviewed, all students have reached the same level of understanding by the end of the class, leaving a portion of the class already at a disadvantage when the teacher begins building on those concepts in the next class. The opposite approach to this institutional norm is to consolidate from the bottom. Instead of summarizing the learning at the most advanced level, the teacher starts with the solutions or responses that all students got to. Then they carefully facilitate a discussion that builds on the complexity of these ideas. In this approach, all students are more likely to engage from the beginning and to remain engaged because they see that their ideas are valued and the discussion is scaffolded in a way that builds understanding. Liljedahl offers 3 approaches to consolidate from the bottom. First, the teacher leads a general discussion about the task and responses, but writes nothing down. This strategy is best for big ideas and general strategies. Another approach is that the teacher leads a detailed discussion of the task and responses while recording on the board what is being discussed. This is best when more detail is required. And finally, the teacher leads a detailed discussion of the task and responses using student work on the vertical surfaces to work through different layers of the answer. This is the best approach, again, when more detail is required, and it's also the most effective method for maintaining student engagement. Regardless of which one of these approaches is used, it's important to note that these are not lectures. Rather, they are detailed discussions that the teacher is facilitating, yet students should be doing most of the talking. Some other effective characteristics of this form of consolidation includes a gallery walk that uses existing student work to demonstrate the details the teacher wants to bring attention to as they facilitate a guided tour through different levels of the flow sequence. This also keeps students moving, which is beneficial for attention and engagement. Students standing in a loose cluster around the teacher in order to maintain student attention and engagement. And inviting other members of the class to explain what the group whose work is being highlighted was thinking. This move shifts consolidation from telling to thinking, as students are challenged to merge their own thinking with what they see in the response on the whiteboard. So in summary, the macro move is to consolidate from the bottom. The micro moves are to lock in student thinking by drawing a box around it with your marker on their whiteboards. Use hints to get missing ideas up on the vertical surfaces if you don't see them showing up on their own. Select and sequence students' work for a guided gallery walk. Keep the students standing and keep them walking. Spend more time on the foundation ideas at the beginning of the consolidation, and then build upon them as the student work reveals those additional details. And do not let students present their own work. Instead, have other students in the class try and explain what that work shows. Now I'll pass it to Jill to cover some examples.
While Lilia Dahl always gives us wonderful math examples, we're going to look at how we can use these strategies in other classes. In English, we often look at mentor texts and identify the moves a writer makes. This is a way to model writing and to consolidate from the top. When we consolidate writing tasks, we can also consolidate from the bottom. The teacher will lead a detailed discussion of the task using pieces of student writing. Students read the writing and then talk about the writer moves they see and offer suggestions for other moves that could be made. This feedback can then be applied to everyone's writing. This can be done as a gallery walk or in a small group situation. Additionally, students can look at pieces of writing for common writing errors. Once they identify the error, the teacher can discuss the grammar rules and how to correct the error. Both of these are active and engaging ways to consolidate writing moves. Similarly, in English and in French, we can use vertical non-permanent surfaces for students to record their thinking about the texts that they read. Then, we can consolidate their thinking through a discussion of the strategies used. This could be done in a gallery walk as well. In geography, consolidating as a group with everyone standing and clustered around specific vertical non-permanent surfaces and using the student work to highlight key learning points is a great way to invite everyone into the learning and to discuss foundational ideas. This can be done for brainstorming tasks, problem-solving tasks, and cause and effect questions. Remember to begin with the tasks or questions that everyone completed. Continue on the gallery walk, highlighting and identifying key elements of each group work. Make sure to have your whiteboard marker handy to highlight the key ideas. You may even want to take a picture of the work for future reference. Students learn about different scientific concepts and ideas. They are often asked to solve problems, describe reactions or systems, to compare and contrast, and many other complex thinking tasks. Consolidating from the bottom is an opportunity to strengthen student understanding and ensure no one is left behind. A gallery walk is a great way to do this. In order to effectively employ this strategy, teachers have to anticipate how students might solve the task. Think about how to sequence different ideas to get to the goal of understanding, monitor students' work to identify those ideas, and make sure students know not to erase the ideas from their vertical non-permanent surface. And perhaps they might even circle some of those key ideas themselves. Teachers will then design the walk, starting with the solutions everyone got. We hope that you will think about this. We want you to think about how might you consolidate from the bottom in your classroom. If you give this a try, please share with us. You can tweet us, you can email us. We would love to hear how you implement this. Thank you for joining us today. Next week, we will dig into how students take notes in a thinking classroom.